The Last of Us, Episode 6. Episode 6 follows Joel and Ellie as they try to find Tommy, Joel's brother, so that he can lead them towards the Fireflies. This episode essentially changed everything that happens in-game in this segment. It cuts out a lot of sequences, it cuts out action sequences, and moves things along quicker in general. But I can't say that any of this is a drawback, because I think this episode finally gave me, at least, that real connection between Joel and Ellie that I've been craving for a while. Whilst there's previously been some chemistry between the two of them, and they've had their moments, they've had some laughs, and they've had some moments where they've saved each other, I never really felt like a real strong bond between these two characters as of yet. But today's episode, I really felt that emotional connection, whether the emotion be them being angry at each other, them laughing with each other, or them just opening up to each other. I really felt that in today's episode. I just think the chemistry in general between these two characters really stood out today, because their relationship finally really gets tested. In all the previous episodes, they've just been in a situation where they don't really have time to fully bond except when they're like camping for the night. Whereas here they're kind of in a safe situation, so it's really about the two of them bonding and, like just going through the motions together. It was really cool to see Tommy return here as well. He was really good in that first episode, and once again he was great here. And I really enjoyed the scenes between him and Joel, and they actually do feel like brothers. This doesn't just feel like two actors that have been cast together to play brothers. They actually do feel like brothers. You feel that chemistry and connection between them, and for the first time we really properly see Joel open up, as he really expresses how he's feeling. He goes on about how he's, afraid of loss again, how he feels like he's not capable, he's not the man he used to be. It was interesting with Joel because they've added these little moments where he feels like his heart's going. It's like he's having almost like a panic attack. That's not something you ever see in the game, so it was an interesting addition here. It's sometimes a bit hard to gauge why. Obviously, I understood more the second time because he saw a girl that looked like his daughter, so obviously it sort of triggered something for him. I'm not sure whether it was really a necessary addition to sort of show him having like a panic attack situation, but I suppose it does make sense, and I suppose it's not something that's, worth implementing in a game, but maybe worth implementing in a TV show. I also found it interesting how they showed Tommy's community in this episode. It looks very much like it does in The Last of Us Part 2, so that's the second game compared to the first game. The first game, it looks very like not prepared and not ready, or at least you don't see that side of it. Whereas here you do see that side of it. You see what the community is actually like, and it's very much how it looks in the second game. And with the second series already planned to be made, this will be a location that we return to, so I guess it makes sense why they've showed it in this light, because we're going to go back and see it again anyway. And as I mentioned, with moving things along quicker, Tommy's community is a prime example. In the game, you kind of have to do some stuff to get the power working, whereas here the power is already working in the community. It also took out a segment where Ellie runs off and Joel has to go and get her in order to sort of get her back on side. But what this show does very, very well is condense things and still get to the point, still get the story to where it needs to go, and it always does it in an effective way. They seem to make changes at the right points for this adaptation. It's not often that I feel like they've taken out something good or put in something poor. It's on the slight occasion, maybe in some of the previous episodes, but overall I feel like they are hitting the mark and making the right adaptations and changes in order for this story to work well for TV. Now, near the end of the episode, Joel and Ellie do end up at the university where they are looking for the Fireflies, and I do like this location a lot. It's a very fun segment in the game, obviously a lot longer than what we got here, and I do kind of wish we were at the university for a bit longer. Just, I don't know, I think it would have been fun to explore that environment a little more, maybe have some cool segments, because in game there is a whole segment with like a bloater and clickers and runners, so it's a bit of a shame that, again, that wasn't here, but it's more for gameplay, that sort of thing, because it's an action sequence and it's just about sneaking around, and obviously they're trying to just sort of tell the main story plot points and then sprinkle some action in between, so I can understand why that wasn't here. But the purpose of their visit to the university is to show that the Fireflies aren't there, and then some random raiders show up, and then there's a bit of scuffle, and then Joel gets stabbed and Joel passes out. For people who haven't played the game, that's a hell of a cliffhanger, and based on the trailer for next week's episode, it's going to be a longer cliffhanger, because next week's episode is actually focusing on the DLC which is the downloadable content of the first game, which is like a side story, so it's not quite continuing straight on from the point that we left off for this episode. So it's going to go sidetracked a little bit, I guess, a bit like the Bill and Frank thing. But, you know, it'd be interesting to see how they portray that. Regardless, I really enjoyed today's episode. It had very little action and no infected, two things that I always love to see. But the dialogue, the chemistry between actors, the sets and the soundtrack were absolutely top tier once again, and it just moved the story along in a very enthralling and entertaining manner. So for that reason, I would give episode 6 of The Last of Us a 9 out of 10. If you've seen it, please let me know what you think about it. How do you think the show's progressing, coming along nicely? Do you think it's coming along nicely, or you're not too sure? Feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.